I've always had a Hannah since I was about 12. My first ever Hannah was my high school bestie. Sweet, cute, and a little shy. The kind of person with a soft heart and an easy laugh. We just understood each other. We clicked. I can't tell you exactly why, maybe because our worlds were so different. She was from the country, I was a city girl. I had a loud Latino family, and her family was an Aussie European mix of sensible. Somehow, that contrast made our friendship richer. We loved learning about each other's lives and being immersed in them. Hand on heart, I can honestly say I loved that girl with all the platonic purity of my youthful spirit. She was the closest thing I had to a true confidant, patient, loyal, and kind. The kind of friend who'd listen to the same story 10 times over and still mean it when she said, "You'll be okay." The kind of gold star standard every teenage girl needs. Together, we had fun, we planned silly adventures, we slept over each other's houses, talked about boys, dreamed about life, and obsessed over whatever felt exciting in our tiny Canberra bubble in the early 90s. I'll never forget one afternoon out on her family's property, bored and contemplating the pool that had turned green with algae and overgrown shrubs completely covered to the point you couldn't see the bottom, full swamp mode. Not quite hot enough to start cleaning, but not quite Canberra freezing either. As we aimlessly wandered around the yard, we looked at each other and without saying a word, we both knew what the other was thinking. Let's jump in. So we did. Ew. Definitely not our brightest idea. Disgusting, to be precise. Her mum caught us mid chaos, yelled for us to get out immediately, and sent us straight to quarantine in the shower. Looking back now, there were probably 1,000 things in that pool that could have done away with us both. But in the moment, none of it mattered. The mischief, the laughter, the sheer ridiculousness of it all was pure magic. What I didn't realize back then was that healing doesn't just belong to adulthood or romance, it runs through all our connections, friendships included, and it doesn't discriminate by age. But also, people come and go in life. Some are chapters, some are books, some are trilogies, and some are just a single unforgettable page. Back then, I didn't know that we can outgrow people or that sometimes they outgrow us. Healing happens at different speeds for everyone. When one person starts to grow, it can trigger the other. That's just the nature of all relationships. You can always tell when one person evolves faster than the other, even if it is subconscious with friends, lovers, or otherwise. My first Hannah and I were friends for years. Our parents even became friends. It was safe, fun, and fulfilling until it wasn't. By year 11, secrecy crept in. She started hanging out with new people and stopped telling me about it. We went from being thick as thieves to strangers in a matter of months. It was heartbreaking. There wasn't a fight or a reason, just silence. We still saw each other every day at school, sat in some of the same classes, shared mutual friends, yet everything had changed. The closeness evaporated, leaving confusion and grief. That quiet kind of heartbreak you only feel when you lose someone who's still right there. I held on long after the friendship had let go of me. I tried to bridge the distance, but was met with avoidance every time. Still, I showed up, unwavering, trying to keep alive a friendship that was clearly dying or probably dead. I remembered special occasions, extended conversations, and kept hoping even when the silence said it all. She was my best mate after all, and I wasn't ready to let go without a fight. To this day, I have no tangible explanation for why it faded. I've blamed myself at times. Maybe I was too much, too intense, too hard to keep up with. But I was also loyal, compassionate, fun, and the biggest cheerleader for everyone I loved, including her. My next Hannah came into my life at exactly the right time. We met at work, both new and 23. I took one look at her and decided she's going to be my best friend. She was shy too. Maybe I had a type, even in the friend zone. That's a bit weird. She wasn't warm at first, but I persisted. Eventually, she cracked. And when she did, we were inseparable. This Hannah and I lasted 10 years. long enough to see the birth of my daughter and my nephew, my destination wedding, my local divorce, and countless birthdays, barbecues, and milestones. She became part of my family. We even survived her moving overseas and my years of catapulting across the South Pacific during the Fijian vortex. We were total opposites. She was timid, observant, and always kept a poker face. I was the loud, impulsive one, but it worked. We both loved to laugh, dance, eat, and talk about our crushes. She was always there for me. I leaned on her unapologetically through every high and every low. We could be brutally honest and deeply kind in the same breath. I can't think of a single thing I would not have done for her. Our friendship shouldn't have worked on paper, but it did perfectly. We balanced each other out without rescuing or fixing. Our love was platonic but pure, the kind of friendship that teaches you what unconditional love really means. In 10 years, I could not remember having even cried once over a misunderstanding. Not even that one time we caught a red eye flight, me stone cold sober, her delightfully drunk, sprinting toward a plane full of travelers and crew who likely hated us for holding up the departure by 30 minutes thanks to her Qantas Club overindulgence. That was followed by a painful 4-hour babysitting job I hadn't signed up for as she talked non stop into the wee hours as we flew over to Fiji. But then out of nowhere, life shifted. I was in another toxic relationship at the time, a new mum again, exhausted and stretched thin, if I'm honest. She had just met someone new, the man she'd go on to marry, and was wrapped up in the honeymoon phase. We both became less available, but gave each other grace for it. In hindsight, if I hadn't been so consumed by my own chaos, I might have noticed her pulling away. When we did talk, she'd mentioned things about her new relationship that raised red flags. I couldn't help but ask questions, not to criticize, but out of love and also worry. Are you sure this person's right for you? I would ask. Between her hesitation, I followed up, then why do you feel like this? After hearing about how he'd disappeared for the weekend and was uncontactable, not bothering to even let her know if he was okay. This kind of became a bit frequent. I asked because I cared, because I loved her, because I wanted her to be happy. Sometimes she met me with honesty, other times with excuses. Either way, I could tell she wasn't ready to see what I saw. She was still early in the journey. I was knee deep in mine, learning to walk away from what no longer felt right, and she just wasn't there yet. It didn't help that her boyfriend worked with members of my extended family, people we'd long since fallen out with. And when she told me, I said, that's fine, just be mindful. You know why we're not close with them. Do what's best for you, but maybe just don't share too much about me and my family. That conversation ended up sealing our fate. Maybe it made things awkward, or maybe she felt torn. Maybe my obsession with truth became too much for her. Either way, she ended it abruptly by text. Her message was short, polite, final. She couldn't show up for me anymore and was ending the friendship. For no real significant reason, throwing 10 years of solid BFFness in the bin via text. Shocked, I tried to reach out to talk it through while struggling to breathe through a newly discovered blood clot in my left lung. I wasn't ready to throw away 10 years of history, but she was. I had no choice but to accept it and mourn. Losing her was one of the deepest heartbreaks I've ever known. Years later, I saw her in town while sipping margaritas with a friend one afternoon. Our eyes met for a split second before she looked away and crossed the street to avoid me, like I was a ghost from another life. My heart sank. It's a strange kind of pain watching someone who once knew every corner of your world pretend you don't exist. Later that night, a few drinks in, I messaged her. I know you saw me, and even after everything, you're still my greatest heartbreak. I don't know what hurt more, that she left me on red or the sorrow that resurfaced from seeing her. But this last Hannah couldn't have been more different. Though she couldn't have been further from my usual tribe, This time was so, so different to the other two Hannahs that I had experienced. I didn't chase her or try to squeeze into her popular circle. She was effortlessly beautiful, gentle, and the sporty kind of woman who looked like she'd just stepped off a runway or the cover of a magazine. We bonded over the absurdity of the workplace that we were in at that time, the chaos, the characters, the nonsense. Laughter became our language. This Hannah became my rock and I hers. Like the others, we went on to have a long, 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 many, many years of friendship, solid friendship. We shared balanced friendship built on mutual respect, honesty, and humor. We connected really deeply over spirituality, and we could spend hours talking about the universe, our bodies, and the afterlife. Her parents were European, conservative, and traditional, which led to many colourful conversations considering Hannah's older brother was a proud rainbow child and activist in his community. We'd often compare notes on how much upbringing can mess with your sense of self and leave an enormity to unpack later. She became part of my family too, just like the other Hannahs. Even after she moved 8 hours away, we stayed close. Video calls, birthday flights for special occasions, we did it all. I could tell her anything and feel safe from judgment. She confided in me too about exes, heartbreaks, healing. We unpacked lessons together and we saw through patterns and growth. She was self aware, doing the work, therapy, journaling, boundaries. She was really trying, as was I, which is why what happened next completely blindsided me. Leading up to my 40th birthday, she was just as excited as I was. She knew how much I'd been through, and especially that year, and how deserving I was of a beautiful new era. She drove down from her new hometown with a mutual friend, a guy that I had also known for years. I gave her my bed while I crashed on the floor because that's what besties do, as the house was in shambles at that point and we were preparing to move out due to a black mold crisis. Ew. At my party, surrounded by love and laughter, she vanished. She barely looked my way, completely consumed by him. She spent the night glued to his side. This is the guy that she'd come down with from Melbourne. No photo together, no happy birthday, not even a dance. It stung. Later, I saw them deep in conversation, a very heated and animated conversation. Clearly, there was more to the story, and she hadn't told me about it. Over it by then, I headed off to the after party with some of my other friends, and when they finally arrived, an hour and a half later, she gave me a lukewarm hello, danced with me for all of 2 minutes, and disappears again. When I asked him what's going on, he brushed me off coldly, and that was my sign. Friendship over, effective immediately. With him, that is. Determined not to let it ruin my night, I continued to dance. I met an American cowboy, and we decided that some birthday passion was in order. Yeehaw! Before leaving, I handed Hannah my house keys and told her to let herself and the others in. The next morning, I came home keyless, obviously, exhausted and with my ears still ringing, only to find the door to my bedroom closed. When I asked where Hannah was, my other friend awkwardly says, "They're both in there." The air left my lungs in that moment. Rage, shock, disbelief. Of all the nights, of all the beds, mine on my birthday, when they literally live 20 minutes from each other in their own town, and after she straight up ignored me all night at my 40th, I left quickly, went to my family's place, which is down the road, too numb to process it at the time. Later, she texts me saying they were heading off and obviously driving back, and it was a long drive, but I didn't respond. I responded a long time later and told her how deeply hurt and disappointed I was about her behavior. She takes some time to come back to me. When she eventually does respond, it is apparent that she's kicking off her underwhelming apology tour, saying she'd been caught in the moment and that she hadn't realized what she was doing, even admitting that she had failed me as a friend. I wanted to believe her. It did sound sincere, but something in me had already shifted. We tried to keep the friendship alive, but the trust was gone. She apologized again and owned her lack of integrity, but the damage was already done. And as I pulled away, she clutched on to our friendship and she love bombed me, promising we'd grow old together, pushing around bedazzled walker frames. But her actions told me that she hadn't faced all of her wounds yet. And yes, she was doing the work, the therapy, the boundaries, confronting her family. And kudos to her, she really had been trying so hard. She was all in, doing the most, just not when it came to me. I kept extending grace, but the friendship became one sided. I was giving, holding, forgiving more. I was compromising my own worth. Over a year went by, and then the final blow came. Not long into the new year, I'd lost my fur baby suddenly and tragically. Grief had cracked me open. A week after my socials tribute, I get a message from her. Thinking of you while you're going through your loss, I'm also unpacking my own grief right now. I was confused. I had no idea what she was referring to. Had someone died? What is happening? So I asked her what she meant. And she said that she'd been seeing him, the guy from my birthday, for 3 months, and he'd just ended it out of the blue and that she was heartbroken. She'd said that she understood my pain because she was grieving too. Her words hit like a punch to the vag, not just because they lacked compassion about what I was going through and I had just lost my Marby Moo, or yet again that they were loaded with unawareness, but the mere selfishness of it all. That was the moment that I saw it clearly. This wasn't about betrayal anymore. It was about awareness or the lack of it. She wasn't malicious. She was unhealed. And when people don't face their wounds, and I mean really face them, they inevitably wound others, even if they don't mean to. I loved her and I still do, but I couldn't keep showing up from a place of pain just to meet her. Loving someone doesn't mean keeping them close. The problem wasn't who she was, it was that what she couldn't see. Her inability to recognize how deeply her actions hurt me was a red flag. I couldn't unsee it, no matter how much I cared about her. The truth is, when people don't love themselves, they can't fully love you back. I realized we were trauma bonded, mirrors of each other's pain when we had first met and formed a friendship. But when one person grows and the other stays still, life always creates lessons that show you it's time to let go. So I had to let her go, not out of anger, but out of acceptance. Friendships, like love stories, have seasons and they can expire too. Sometimes they simply stop serving both souls. The real test is knowing when a season has ended and having the courage to let it. This time, I wasn't being friend dumped or ghosted. This time, I was the one who walked away, finally learning what all the other Hannahs had come to teach me. And yes, they were all called Hannah, by the way. To stop overextending, to honor my worth, and to love myself enough to let go when it's time. It was time to choose me above anybody else. And so I did.